Devil's Productions presents The Great Deep.
Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this, and feel free to join the discussion in the comments.
I'm drinking water out of a gin bottle. So it looks like gin, but it's actually just water.
Bro, that is so rock and roll. I love it. Okay, Neil, so good to connect with you, man. I think
years all right.
I think the last time you and I spoke, I don't know quite when it was. I think it was probably, it was either at a show that we did together or it was in my journalist days.
Yes.
But I think you and I go back probably to the days of Driver Lane. If I'm honest. I think that was
that's a long time ago. Well, probably, I mean, Driver Lane was like 2005, 2004, 2005.
Yeah. So I mean, I remember that being the season. I remember a couple of your shows with Driver Lane, and then I think you connected with the Prime Circle guys. So
that's right. Yeah.
So you've got a lot of experience, brother.
Yes, that's true.
Are you writing the book?
I'm writing the book. The book of life is coming one day.
I'll be the first. I'll buy the first copy.
Okay, man. But I'll probably be like Keith Richards' age when I release it, you know. Retirement plan.
Retirement plan, because you I mean, you're a bit busy at the moment to, like, you know, finish writing and publish the book. Plus, you got many more stories still to write.
100%, man. The good ones are still coming, so we can't cut those off yet.
I like it. So, Neil, tell for those who don't know your sort of background and where you come from, just tell us, like, where you're from, where you grew up, you know, what your history in the music scene is, just so we you know.
Okay, cool. So let me take it back to day one. Like, when I was a toddler, I grew up in Warner Beach, and my Italian grandfather was like an opera singer, but he was also like an international football ref.
No way.
So he was bouncing between the football ref side and also the opera singing side. So whenever he was back, we'd go for like walks on the Warner Beach today, and he'd like sing. And by him singing kind of got me into music. And that's kind of what grabbed me. And then I was like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. From there, I started playing drums. And then from drums, I moved on to keyboards, because I told my parents, like, no, I want to play guitar and all of this stuff. And they were like, no, just use whatever instruments in the house. And there was like a organ in the one corner. And my parents were like, go play that. And if you enjoy music after a while, then we'll like consider getting you a guitar. To this day, I bought my own guitar, by the way. And so I started learning the keys from there when I was like a lassie. I went for music lessons at the age of 8. Through high school, I played more sport than anything else. So music was there. I wrote an album at the age of 12. And I never really released that album. It was kind of just like a personal thing, but there was like 15 songs on the album. And I thought it was like pretty cool stuff. It was almost like a mix between a Depeche Mode and the Doors, that kind of vibe with a little bit of rock in it. And then after school, it was different style, man. But it was cool. It sounded really good. And I wish I could find those files now. And then after school, I studied music. So I graduated in jazz piano and songwriting. And from there, I just started sessioning in different jazz bands and different bands. I played, my one jazz trio I played with was the bass player from the Waterboys. They had that song, Hole of the Moon.
That's right.
So he was in my jazz trio at the time. And yeah, then from there started getting more into songwriting and more into writing for like pop music, rock music, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And after touring with a couple of bands, then I met up with all the Prime Circle guys with different bands and stuff. And then we kind of, everyone had met up on tour at different times. So it's like being in the right place, right time, I guess. And just being on the tour circuit, that's pretty much where you meet the guys that are a little bit more serious. And yeah, so on the tour circuit, that's where I met up with the guys from Prime Circle, and the rest is history. Very like the band's been going together for like 22 years, and yeah, being strong.
That's amazing, man. So I mean
Yeah.
that it's funny how you know, you talk about your Italian grandfather. I'm amazed at how the influence of family often plays a big part in people who are in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And like for me, I think just hearing that, because I didn't know that about your granddad.
Yeah.
But I can see the roots go deep there. Huh?
No, the roots are deep, eh? So, and the funny thing is, I actually like started teaching my Lati music. So when he was in junior school and high school, I was teaching him guitar and about songwriting, and he was doing voice training. And now he's first year out of school, and him and I jam in a band together called Cantrel. So now,
For sure.
yeah, now me and my Lati are like writing and recording music together. So it's, yeah, the roots are very deep.
So tell me about Cantrel and how that's evolved, because that's been going a little while now. Neil, you've got various different things attached to it. There's obviously the music, but I mean, you've got other things going on with that. Tell us a bit about that as well.
So the music side of things was how it started off was when I was on tour in a tour bus, and also at home writing music in my studio. It's kind of like I always had music that was a little bit different to what Prime Circle was doing at the time. And so I just thought to myself one day, well, you know what, it would be a shame for me to kind of die with these songs and let them just die down in my studio on a hard drive or something. So I figured, like, let me just randomly release like a song every now and then. So there was no structure behind it. There was no huge plugging behind it. It was just put it out into the world and see who gets hold of it. And if people like it, cool. If they don't, doesn't matter. And from there, if they want to pass it on to their friends, it's all good. So it was a very like nonchalant kind of thing. That's how it started. And then in lockdown, I was home with my son. He was doing matric at the moment at the time, and we kind of just thought, like, why don't we just write some songs together during lockdown and see how it goes. And we released a couple of songs through lockdown. We released like a music video that we recorded at home, and people just kind of took to it, and it was like they loved the music, you know. They're like, oh wow, and they loved the whole father and son thing, and people were just like requesting more and more and more and more. And like the South African market was, they wanted to hear more of the acoustic kind of songs, the ballads, but also like just mainly the broken down acoustic stuff, where the people in Germany were like requesting more of the harder rock songs that we were doing. So they were like, no man, write more of that hard rock stuff. And then the South African market was like, no, write more like acoustic stuff. So that kind of brings us to where we are now. So my son and I are actually busy writing a rock album for Cantrel, which we're hoping to release later on this year. And that will definitely push out to the German market, give them their rock fix. And early next year, we're gonna record an acoustic album and probably do some remixes of that as well for like radio edits, that kind of thing. So as we're sitting here, my son and I will probably have enough songs to release for the next 2 years. That's how much music we're sitting on at the moment. And it's just a matter of recording these songs and getting through them and literally releasing them over the next 2 years. So yeah, that's where we are, man.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it's pretty cool because now it's got to the stage where people are requesting us to come do shows, and we've played a couple of gigs here and there, but it was never really a thing for us. It was always more just releasing the songs. Now the requests are coming in like, no, you guys got to play festivals, you got to play this, you got to play that, and yeah. So from the rock stuff to the acoustic stuff, there's just so many different requests coming in, which is pretty cool. So now we're like, okay, well, maybe we should actually start touring this project, release the rock album, tour the rock album, release the acoustic album next year, tour the acoustic album. So it's kind of evolved into that now, and which is very cool.
That's amazing. So I mean,
Yeah.
tell us about your songwriting process there. I mean, like you talk about, you know, what different markets want. Does that inform you? I mean, you've obviously got a lot of experience, which you draw on, but when you're writing a song, like what are the things that you look for first when you're trying to create something?
Yeah. So I'd say like it depends exactly what you're writing for. If you're just writing a song, like say an album full of song, you can pretty much do what you want. But if you're gunning more, say for radio singles or like the hook factors where the music grabs people straight away, then the main thing to look at is you want hooks in your song. So if you can get to the chorus within the first 45 seconds of the song, that's where it's at. So the sooner you can get to the chorus and the hook of the song, the better for you. So if you take a band like Linkin Park, even some Linkin Park songs, they used to start the song in the chorus musically. They wouldn't necessarily sing over the intro, but the chorus would be there musically with maybe like a hook guitar line or synth line. And some of their songs, that's how they started it. So they went just bam straight into the hook. And from there, they filtered down into your verse and pre-chorus, chorus, that kind of thing. So the general way I like to write, I always write starting with music first. It's very rare with me that I'll have like lyrics written down first or something like that for that particular song. But it does happen where randomly I'll be driving in a car and I'll come up with a melody and the lyrics, and it's all just falls on my lap straight away. But most of the time, I like to just get a feeling, whatever I'm feeling that day, just chug it out on guitar or on a keyboard and develop the song from there. So once I have the chords down, phonetically I'll come up with a melody. So I'll sing a melody with random words that kind of mean nothing. And from there, once you have your hooks for your verse and for your choruses, from there the next process I'll start writing lyrics for those parts. And that's kind of how I like to develop the tracks. So generally, I would say the main thing is hooks. The catchy part of the song is the part that people are gonna remember. So if your verse is okay and it's got a vibe and it can kind of get you through to the chorus, which is like a massive hook, then that's great. But in this day and era, literally everything, like all pop music, rock music, revolves around hooks. So even if you're writing a verse, the guy's gone for a bit of a hook in that verse. So whether it's a melody hook or whether it's a guitar hook or a synth hook or even like a drum beat kind of hook, because sometimes drums and certain beats can create a hook to a song. And so that's the way I like to approach songs. Is just obviously the lyrics and everything has to mean a lot to you, and the vibe of the song, there has to be a vibe. It has to make you feel good or make you feel sad or whatever the vibe is that you're going for. If you can nail that vibe down and then you write the lyrics around what you're trying to aim for, and yeah, like I said, if you can nail as many hooks in that song as possible, it's great. And get to that chorus ASAP before 45 seconds.
There was some old line I remember. Don't bore us. Get to the chorus. It was
yes.
I mean that's essentially it. Hey,
that's exactly it. I mean, like, you know what, like if you think about bands like the Beatles as well, like the Beatles were like great songwriters, and I mean, their more popular songs were ones that kind of just got to the hook straight away. But then you'll have a band like a Led Zeppelin where they were like, okay, let's just do a solo for 7 minutes and then get to the song,
Yeah,
kind of
let's
thing.
meander our way there.
Yeah, exactly.
Life in the slow lane.
Yes, depending on how much water they drank that day. So the thing is like, but even with those guys, even though they do like a 7 minute meander, when they got to the song, like, I mean, there was hooks for days. So whether it was the melody or the lyrics or just the guitar riff or something, I mean, they got to the point and you were like, okay, there's the song. That, I mean, if you take between the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, it's like two different worlds. But when they got to the hooks, they got to the hooks.
Yeah.
And that's what caught the people. Yeah.
And you mentioned music. So you generally start with music, and you also said earlier, you learned, was it drums you learned first?
Yeah, I started on drums.
So
then I went to keys.
Do you think about like rhythms and things sort of as a primary base? Like, would you build your songs off of drums and when I say drums, I actually mean like fast, slow. Do you start there?
Yeah, tempo. Yeah, so for the rockier stuff, it definitely comes from a rhythm element. So whether it's a rhythmical thing that you do on the guitar or on the bass, it comes from like a rhythm point of view. So like the feel. So if you're going for like a feel good track or a sexy swagger track, that comes from rhythm. So if you punching that out on your bass guitar or your drum kit or on your guitar or your synth, that rhythm is the key. That's kind of gonna grab people. That's gonna make them swing their hips or gonna make them headbang or whatever you're trying to get across in that song. So that's where rhythm for me was like very important. Where I do know there are songwriters out there that kind of write first with like poetry and lyrics, and then from there they'll put it into a song. But for me, it's more about how the song makes you feel.
Yeah,
it's all about feeling. Yeah.
And would you? So I mean, like on that note, what would you say is like a common theme with great songs? Like, is there something that great songs have in common?
Yeah, it's definitely it's I mean, if you have to just put it down quickly in layman's terms, it's you keep it simple, keep it hooky, have the hooks, have good lyrical content, and let that song carry on that feeling that makes you feel a certain way. So definitely all those songs have common threads. So from the Beatles to what Justin Bieber is doing now, it's all about great chord progressions, great melody lines over that, great hook lines, and there's your song. There's your core of your song.
Yeah.
So that I would say that's the common thread. Yeah.
And Neil, with all your traveling and moving around, you've obviously seen a lot of South African bands, but international bands as well, and you know enough about the ins and outs of the industry to sort of see like great songwriters, great performers. What traits do those people have in common? Like, if you had to think about your, like, you know, who's a world-class songwriter and performer, and compare, like, are there things that they have in common?
You know, that's a very good question, because I mean, everybody's different, and every muso you meet in the world has kind of got their own thing, and that's what kind of makes them unique. But I would say it's nowadays, it's like, I mean, back in the day, it was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll was the cool thing with Led Zeppelin and those guys. Where nowadays it's more, the guys are almost like more fitness conscious. They're more about eating healthy, like drinking healthy. For sure, the guys will go on a bender every now and then. But what I can see is the guys are definitely trying to come with a more clear mind, They're trying to approach everything more healthy, if you want to say it that way, from a clear mind point of view. And geez, like, I mean, traveling with like bands like Muse and bands like Three Doors Down and those guys, what I noticed is the bigger the bands are, the nicer the guys are. The smaller the bands are and they're trying to prove a point, those are the guys that are more arrogant. And so you can always pick out on the tour circuit who's who in the zoo without even kind of knowing the guys or what band they're from. Where the bigger guys are definitely more down to earth, more chilled. And I would say that when they're approaching their songwriting, it's kind of, they've been there, done that, and they got nothing to prove. So what they write is kind of, it comes from a good place instead of trying to force things out. And I would say some of the best songs in the world were probably written under half an hour. The tracks that are written straight away, and you just know straight away that's a keeper. And yeah, it's within 10 minutes. If you got something good, then you know that's the one right there. Where if you try slugging out songs for days and days and days, you'll end up with an okay product. But generally, if within that first half an hour, you know you got something, you're on the goal.
That's really interesting. And so I want to pick you on that point, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The
Go for it.
The idea of guys who have got nothing to prove. So we talk about hooks and we talk about just like, don't bore us, get to the chorus, that kind of idea. But if you consider for a minute, like the market, if there is such a thing, in terms of youth, young people trying to be trendy, all of that kind of stuff, and the people that will spend money on tickets and come to shows and all that kind of thing. For me, one of my favorite songwriters at the moment is Ben Rector, and his songs just talk about ordinary things, like as a family man, as a dad, you know, like in your case, with Cantrel. That's really interesting, and I think that's something that resonates with people, because a lot of people can relate to that. And there's stuff in there that's like gold, you know. It's like, well, now I'm a bit older, I've seen the world, I've seen a couple of things, and this is my thought on that, and poof, straight from the hip. Is that the kind of thing that you're going for nowadays? I mean, do you kind of look from an experience point of view, from like a, you know, as a dad, as an older, wiser person than you were in the days of, you know, like your youth, university, that kind of thing?
Definitely. Like, I think there's a certain maturity that comes with it, where even just the way you choose your lyrics. So where before you'd maybe try to look into things too deeply and try to get too arty-farty, but sometimes just saying something like it is, but in a nice way, or in a kind of with a twist to it, like those kind of things is very cool. And that definitely comes with a maturity. And if you listen close enough, sometimes it's not always what it seems. If you listen close enough, you'll be like, oh, that's what the guy was meaning. And kind of with the maturity side of things, it's the way they write comes out a lot easier, but also they use a couple of twists which make you think, which is quite cool.
That's always interesting. So if you think about, you know, the great songwriters of the past, like you know, Bob Dylan. Let's take Bob Dylan for example. And that whole sort of folk revolution, like anti-establishment revolutionary kind of thing, where it was using music as a platform, using metaphors to talk about like, why are we doing this war? Has things changed? You know, have things changed since those days? Do you see much of that now in your travels with songwriting?
I think the poetry side of things isn't as huge as what it used to be, say with Dylan and those kind of guys, where they kind of did approach it more from a poetic kind of way. Where the guys nowadays, the writing is a lot more simpler lyrically, I would say. Where that's where they'll kind of add metaphors and adjectives and things to it, just to kind of wake you up a little bit and like rattle your cage a little bit and be like, okay, what is that guy talking about there? And then carry on. But if you don't approach it in that way, I mean, coming from the Bob Dylan times and those guys, then it just means something else to you. The song will mean something else to you. But if you actually pay attention and listen to the lyrics properly, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. But I do find the whole poetic thing from Dylan and the guys from that time, I don't really hear it as much anymore. It's more to the point, basic, but yeah, still hooky, I guess.
Emojis.
Emojis. Throwing those emojis all over the place.
Wait, emojis are now our literacy. I wonder how we're going to sing that.
It's nuts, decade. Man. I mean, you're an English teacher. You should know better about this stuff.
Oh man, it's one of those it's one of those things where I think, you know, for me, and I've said to a lot of people that lyrics matter, and you know, music is a conduit for a message. And I think that for me is always interesting when you got someone who's got a good message. So I like guys like you who have been in the industry for a long time and are still going strong and still got their eyes on the horizon, your head screwed on straight, and you've got something to say. And so I think those kind of messages and stories are interesting for me, because you know it's worth listening to, you know.
Totally.
We've got lots of love songs and breakup songs and, you know, all of those kind of things. It'd be interesting to hear about a marriage of 50 years, you know. Someone who's someone who's still writing songs when they hit their, you know, golden wedding anniversary, and what that song would sound like if he's a literate person. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So that
I think with songwriting, guys, it's almost like mining. It's like you're just mining. You're mining for that hit. You know, it's like you're mining for that next song, or even if it's just a matter of like the other day I wrote a song about, I just came about like with this piano chords and hook line on the piano, and then the lyrical content is quite, it's about someone who's gone through like alcohol abuse and that kind of thing. But the thing is, like, lyrically, if you would need like a more mature person or someone who's gone through life to sing that song, because and then it'll hit home for you. But if you had to release that song and then like a 18-year-old sings it on Pop Idols or something, it's not going to be the same thing, because that 18-year-old has not gone through life and has not experienced what that 50 or 60-year-old man has experienced in life. But if you have like an older person who's kind of been through that and he understands what the lyrics are about, and he sings that song, and you can feel his struggle and you can feel his pain, and you can kind of feel that he's been through a midlife crisis and he's kind of recovered from it, and now he's on the right track, and that's why he's writing about stuff in his past. And that's where songs are very strong and very potent, and the lyrical content is very deep. So if you also have the right person telling the story, it can go a lot further than having the wrong person telling the wrong story.
That's for sure. Tell us about your process with your son writing songs, because you're obviously coming at it from different perspectives, and that's really interesting. You know, you've got you've got your son and his paradigms, and you got you and your paradigms. Like how does your songwriting evolve there between generations?
So what's actually pretty funny is the fact that, I mean, he's 19 now, and he's actually a grunge kid. So the thing is, the bands that I was digging in the grunge era, like Nirvana and Alice in Chains and all those bands, like he's kind of loves. So now I'm like, okay, this is different. So now what happens is, it's almost like when we're writing a rock song or a grunge type song, he almost approaches it in that kind of way, in that kind of mindset. But he'll bring his own influence to the party. So if he writes a guitar riff, which is like, say, a cool, grungy, rocky kind of riff, and then when we get to the lyrical content, and we'll have, like, say, one hook in the chorus, and then if we're needing like a second hook in the chorus, like he'll bring that second hook, but in a way that I would never have thought, in a way that I would never thought, like, oh wow, okay, you can do that. And he makes it very simple, but very effective and very to the point, but so catchy. It's like, wow, okay, I would have never thought to do that, but he just did it. And I'm like, so you got this mix of grunge, but almost with like a pop and more modern understanding, or yeah, like a rock band. You got like a rock band with the Ed Sheeran coming in, writing a part of your chorus kind of thing. So it's definitely an interesting blend. And earlier I said, like, my folks never wanted to buy me guitars and stuff. So I ended up buying like some sick guitars, and I think I've probably got like 15 guitars lying around the house at the moment, but like decent ones. And so we either write guitar songs together, or I'll jump on the keys and then he jumps on the guitar, because he's a guitarist and a singer. And we kind of bounce off each other like that and feel out the dynamic. And it's definitely, we definitely got a good bond, but there's definitely a cool approach that he brings to the project of Cantrel, which is like, oh wow, that is awesome. I didn't think of that. And yeah, I love that. It's very nice.
That's great. And really great that, you know, as a dad, number one, you've got the experience to be able to pull in other influences as well. And number two, that you're willing to learn, you know, like
yeah.
that you're still malleable and able to kind of, you know, adapt and grow. It's not like, I've got all the answers, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool as well.
I think that's the key, is the fact that you need to be open-minded to learn every day. And if your teenage son can teach you something, and he's taught me many life lessons, and it's just come out of the blue, and I'm like, what? That's like a 50-year-old man would say something like that. And it's like, geez, okay, this guy just schooled me. Yeah. And that's the thing. I've been schooled so many times by my teenager, just overthinking stuff, and he just brings it in like it is. And I'm like, geez, okay, this guy's legit just put me on my place, schooled me. I'm like, wow, okay, I've learned something today. And yeah, I've learned so much from him.
Neil, talk a little bit about your songwriting process in Prime Circle. How does that stuff play itself out amongst all you, like, more or less similar generation dudes?
Yeah. So with Prime Circle, I mean, there's 5 guys in the band. So you got 5 different ideas coming at you at like 500 Ks an hour. And so there's different ways it's happened. So some of the ways, someone will come in with like a keyboard idea or a guitar idea, and then from there we build the song. The other members start pitching in their ideas to that part, and then the song kind of grows from there. And then we'll get melodically, there'll be like a melodic line, say on the keyboard or guitar, and then next minute it's like, okay, that could be a cool melody idea. And then from there we'll do like a storyboard, throw a couple of storyboard ideas out there, and then from there the lyrics will start getting written. And that's kind of the process, one part of it. So where it comes in from someone bringing an idea to the table, and it doesn't have to be a finished idea. Sometimes it literally is a finished idea. Sometimes it's only a 10% of an idea, but we always build it from there. Other times we'll just get in there and be like, okay, well, someone bash something out, and whoever hits a rhythm or a chord or a progression first, we go with that and see where it takes us. Sometimes it's really rubbish, and sometimes it's like we hit gold like straight away, and we're like, damn, that's cool. And then we carry on working on that song. But there are times where with previous albums we've written like 40 songs, And then it's like the process of elimination where we'll take the 40 down to 30, 30 down to 20. And then the hardest part is 15 songs, say down to 12 or down to 10, because that's when you get it where not everybody's agreeing on the same song. So some guys would love a song and then other guys would hate the song and be like, okay, that song must not be on the album, or that song must be on the album. So unfortunately now we've like, it's kind of majority rule vote. So if 5 of us, if 3 guys vote for the song and makes the album, if the 3 guys don't like the song, then it won't make the album. So, which sucks sometimes, because a lot of the times you'll a song will like feel a lot. So it will be like, no, this one's precious, and then it doesn't make the album, and you're like, damn, that sucks. But yeah, that's kind of how the Prime Circle guys, that's how we write our stuff, is just bringing ideas to the table, bringing chords to the table, and developing it from there.
How patient do you have to be with each other?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's like brothers and sisters. Eh? It's like one day you'll love each other, and the next day you want to like punch the guy in the face, and it's literally that. It's like a family, and we know exactly how to press someone's buttons in the band. So okay, if you're gonna go there, the outcome is gonna be X, Y, Z. So we've kind of learned not to push each other's buttons unless you're really trying to cause cuck. But yeah, we know exactly how each member operates. So we try to avoid conflict in that sense. But I mean, conflict will always come about because at the end of the day, we got the same goal and the same drive, and everybody wants what's best for the band. And yeah, so if your idea and your vibe, you're feeling like that, it's very strong about your idea and your vibe, and then like you're just not getting heard, or it's just not coming across, then sometimes you'll be like, hey, but if I push that button right now, maybe I'll get my story across a bit better. So yeah, you definitely you definitely get to know someone very well, like with touring on a tour bus with them and spending so much time with them. Yeah, we know each other really well, and we know our good sides, our bad sides, and the key is that the goal at the end of the day is the same. And if everybody just keeps striving to the same goal and the same outcome, then you'll be fine.
That's amazing. So Neil,
Yeah.
last question for you. What would you want your legacy to be at the end of your days?
Sure. So this is the thing about writing songs, right? Is that you might pass on, but your music will live forever. So the key is to leave songs behind that you're proud of, whether they're good or whether they're bad, like whatever that lyrical content or that feel is about it, is what you leave behind. You're happy about what you've left behind, good or bad. But obviously the whole point is to leave songs behind that kind of tells a story that people love, and that kind of music can live on forever. So if you write a song that can live on forever and people cover it 100 years from now and it becomes a hit again, it's like, wow. Like for me, that would be, I'm happy. Yeah.
Brilliant, my friend. Neil, thank
Cool,
you so
man.
much for your time. I really appreciate it, man. And,
Thanks so much, Ryan.
And all the best with everything in the days ahead. We'll be listening out for Cantrel, for you and your all-knowing teenager. It sounds like he can teach us a thing or two.
No, he doesn't know everything, but when he knows a point, it's like it's on point. So yeah. 1 out of 10 times I'm listening.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Good,
Lekker, man. Thanks.